Coleman Conversation with my good friend Lance Sexton, Executive Vice President, Community Bank and South Community Bank and Trust out of Georgia. Lance, this is going to be a fun conversation. Thank you for joining us. You have a varied career, but I want to start with politics. We don't talk politics, but we're going to talk politics today. And what I want to know, there's been enough years that have gone. I think we can talk about the Clintons without people clicking off and ranting and raving.
I'm from Arkansas.
You're from Arkansas? Tell me a Bill Clinton story.
Well, Bob, first of all, since we are diving into politics, my children call me a socially responsible Republican, if that makes sense. I want people to eat and to have basic services, but I also want a fiscally responsible federal government that, helps Americans grow small business. But I started that off, Bob, because Bill Clinton's from Arkansas. We went to the same university. And early in my career, I actually served on a committee for Bill Clinton when he was governor of Arkansas. And he had a entrepreneurship committee. It wasn't a big requirement, but I participated in a meeting or two and was asked to by Governor Clinton at the time. And the only thing I would want to leave people, I have some connections with him. I have some other stories that I really can't tell.
Oh, no, wait a minute. That's the whole point with the question, Lance. This is between you and I.
Wait. People will enjoy this.
All right. I got one.
Early in my career, Bob, I worked for the FDIC. And when I worked for the FDIC, one of my jobs was to liquidate loans of a failed institution. And I had a foreclosure going on, and the foreclosure attorneys were from the Rose Law Firm, and one of my foreclosure attorneys was Hillary Clinton.
All right. So, but you're not going to give me any good old boys stories with Mr. Clinton.
I do not have any that I can confirm enough. Being from Arkansas, we enjoyed his leadership as governor for a long time. Long enough to move him to president.
Washington. All right.
But I will say this. I will say this in his defense. He was a yellow dog Democrat when he started. He became a conservative Democrat by the time he left.
He balanced the budget.
Yep. And he had some bipartisan support.
Yeah. As all of us, that was the politics I wanted to talk about. Okay, I tried to get a Bill Clinton story out of you.
Well, I would love to tell you, but if you're going to dive into Bill Clinton stories, you better be factually accurate. And unless I know it for sure, I'm
all right. Hey, but you have an eclectic career. And you mentioned you work for the FDIC. You started as an entrepreneur. You come from a family of entrepreneurs. Your dad is still working at what age?
Dad is 84 years old.
Running a
Radio Shack.
I love it.
And, the Radio Shack story, many of you have heard this before, but Radio Shack as an organization went bankrupt several years ago. Well, Dad just kept on chugging. He found different sources of product, and he still had it's called Jack's Electronics, but it's a Radio Shack brand. He still had the Radio Shack sign shining bright on the Interstate 40, and open and sold product.
We have a Google Earth search shot of his shop.
And he continues to work at 84. My older brother has been in the furniture business for many years. And my experience in business ownership is I bought the Radio Shack from Dad many years ago, ran it for several years, figured out it was real hard work and a lot of hours, and decided the University of Arkansas offered me a faculty post as Small Business Development Center Director and entrepreneurship faculty. And I'm like, I think I'm going to do that.
Well, I think that experience as an entrepreneur translates well into what you're doing today. Lance is the expert in instruction training for servicing liquidation. He's won national awards on online instruction. You've carved out a great reputation for you. Lance, you and I've worked together for 12, 13 years. We have a very extensive contract that started on a handshake, and I've enjoyed working with you over the years, man.
Yeah, I've told people this before. Our relationship, Bob, I've always considered you and your family my family. And we started working together many years ago. Um, I woke up and thought, and Bob, I know you truly believe this, that it's so important for us to prepare the next generation of SBA lenders. And, I feel like we're doing that here with our webinars, our office hours, and various products that we share with the SBA lending professionals. We need young people to get excited about SBA lending, to make a career out of SBA lending.
Lance, as always, you've gone off script, and that's exactly what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk about bringing in I'm not going to talk policies or closing or servicing. I want to talk about what we elders need to be doing on training the next generation. Let's start with your family. Tell us what first of all, Delaney, who worked with us as an intern for a number of years. Tell me about Delaney, who I love tremendously.
So Delaney, of course, has always loved to write. And her degree program in her undergraduate, she had a writing part. She had a criminal justice major and a creative writing major in her undergraduate program. And early on, I connected her with you, Bob, and she got to write for the Coleman Report for several years.
And she did a great job.
And she's now working with Phoenix Lender Services as a government guaranteed lending content creator. And we're very excited to have her here because she loves to write, but she's learned to love to write about SBA. So she's getting involved in helping us create policies, develop resources for us as a team to be more efficient. And I couldn't be a prouder dad than to, my children, I thought, Bob, none of them would end up in SBA. And now I have several children working in the SBA industry. And one of them certainly is Delaney. And I know many of you missed Delaney's Fraud Friday stories.
Absolutely.
I know Bob's still writing them, but I used to, a couple of conferences, you sent her with me, or I went with my company, and Bob sent Delaney. So many people would come, oh, you write Fraud Friday.
Right.
So she really enjoyed that. And I'm excited to see her continue.
Good for you. You also have a daughter who's a loan closer.
Yes, my daughter Shelby, she started in banking at Banco ZK, and many of you know at one point, I'm sorry, no, she didn't. She started at Legacy National Bank, and she worked in banking for a little while, and she's a very entrepreneurial young person. And so she went out and did her own thing for a while, and it's kind of magic when a child turns 26 and they can no longer be on their parents' health insurance and life insurance. I'm not going to say that was the motivator, but she started to say, banking was a pretty good place to be. So she came back to Banco ZK, and then she worked with a First Community Bank and Trust in Arkansas, and helping them to close loans. And they started jumping in and doing some SBA loans. And, I had to go up and sit down with her on a weekend and kind of run her through E-Tran. But I didn't have to work hard, Bob. She picked up real quick and was helping them originate and close SBA loans. And then we needed a team member to help us on our closing side, and she joined Phoenix Lender Services first, or Community Bank and Trust, about a year or about 6 months ago to help us with closing SBA loans, and she's just doing a great job. And I have one other child, Bob. Actually, I have several other children, but one other that is involved in the SBA industry. I have a stepson, Brandon Buckman. And Brandon has been with us for quite some time. He started out in servicing, working with my team. handling the servicing of an SBA portfolio. Now he's on the loan specialist position. And I'm excited to see him in that position because I think young SBA professionals need to think about getting experience in different areas of the SBA lending process, and that will help them prepare to be in management positions down the road.
Lance, you've not only mentored your children, but you've made a commitment to the industry. Tell me about what you're doing with your college instruction on training college students to become SBA lending professionals. That's an amazing program that you are working with.
So, Bob, I started this a long time ago when I was at the University of Arkansas. I taught 2 entrepreneurship courses, which the last half of the course was how to prepare your small business for an SBA loan. So I trained university students on, if you're in a small business, how do you get prepared? What do you need to do to get an SBA loan? But I also train them from the perspective of, if you're working at a bank as a commercial lender and you want to help a small business get an SBA loan, how you do it. Well, recently I started a course at the University of the Ozarks here in the community that I live in, and we had senior level accounting and finance students who came in, and basically I taught them the SOP 5010. At the time, Bob, it was 5010-7. Then it became 7.1 during the middle of class. We didn't hit 5010-8 during class, but I had my students actually reading the SOP. That was their textbook. I gave presentations similar to webinars that we use, do at Coleman Report. I train them just like I would an SBA lender to give, and I also spent a lot of time, Bob, encouraging them. The SBA industry is a wonderful industry for a young person to get into. There's plenty of opportunity. Bob, I know you do the compensation report. SBA lenders are compensated, in my opinion, a little better than typical bank positions. I think an SBA underwriter might get a little higher salary than a bank underwriter. Same thing on
You are
closers
correct. They do.
and loan
Yes.
officers. As a whole, Bob, I speculate SBA positions probably are 20 or 30% higher in most cases than a standard bank position. So it's a great industry to be in. So I spent a lot of time, Bob, just saying, hey, guys, it's a great industry. And the other thing, Bob, is I bring in information about conferences. I think one of the things that, and Delaney can tell you, the first time she went to a MALC conference, she was blown away because everybody thinks of SBA lending as a little corner office in the bank. But in reality, when you show up at a conference and there's 500 or 600 specifically SBA lenders there to learn and interact with one another, you're like, oh, there are a ton of people just like me in the industry.
Lance, back to your class. How many of your students received offers?
We at the end, and so we've only done it once for the full term. However, I've incorporated SBA lending into my other classes, as you would expect. But we've done this specific class once, and we had 3 students receive full-time professional offers.
Yeah, and at nice beginning salaries for college graduates. So good for you. I've always been impressed by your commitment to work with the next generation and train them. You've been in this, you and I have been in this industry for a while. Project out 20 years. What do you think SBA is going to look like for a career path for a young person?
Well, I think there will never be a time when SBA lending's not important. I think the career opportunities in SBA lending will continue to be robust, plenty of opportunities, and I think they'll continue to pay better than a standard bank position. Bob, you and I had a post, I think somebody had Shane Pearson had a post about an SBA loan and the interest rate, and I commented on his post, Bob. You and I have shared this story. We both have been there. My first SBA loan I worked on had an interest rate of 21.5%.
December 1980, prime was 21.5%.
So, the thing about SBA lending, SBA lending has been through incredibly high interest rates, incredibly low interest rates. We've been through presidents that were fairly liberal and very conservative presidents. SBA's been through a president that wanted to get rid of SBA and fold it into the Department of Commerce. But what I've learned over 40 plus years, Bob, is SBA is always going to be here. There's always going to be a need for capitals to support small business. And it may be in some different configuration, Bob. My first loan package, Bob, was so big I had to borrow my daughter's red wagon to take it to the SBA office. And at that time, SBA approved everything directly. To now, it's all electronic. So it's going to evolve, it's going to change, but it's still going to be here. There's still going to be a tremendous opportunity for young people.
I agree with you absolutely, Lance. The program has been well managed by the majority of the lenders over the course of the last 30, 40 years. Yes, there's always rogue people, but SBA is able to self-correct that. It has broad bipartisan support. Why? The fees paid for loan losses. SBA traditionally has had very good management at the civil and even the political level. When the politicians come in, they're not the flamethrowers. They're the people who understand the critical need, for this marketplace in the $1 to $10 million range. That capital is so hard to access, and to commit a career on that. Plus, you're dealing with entrepreneurs and who when you make that loan, you change their lives, Lance.
Oh, absolutely, Bob. I had a conversation yesterday with a small business owner on an SBA lending matter, and I had some really good news for that individual. And the guy said, "You changed my life today." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, that's what it's all about."
You're creating generational wealth for that entrepreneur, for his or her family. And more importantly, you're creating good jobs for Main Street. So, I mean, the career path is awesome. You also give back to the industry. Lance, how many emails do you answer a week personally, just answering questions from people in the industry who need help? Because you've become the go-to person with saying, "Hey, I got a problem. Hey, I know someone who can solve it."
Well, Bob, this started with you and I on a podcast or a webinar, or at some point. Bob and I have done this so long, and my friend Paul Long will not be mad at me for telling this story, but I was doing SBA Today with Paul Long the other day, and Paul asked me.
Good podcast, check it out, subscribe.
Yeah, it's a great one. So, and Paul is a big fan of the Coleman Report and been active, but I was doing the SBA Today podcast, and Paul asked me a question, and when I started to answer, I said, "Bob." Paul. So I've done things with Bob for so long, I'm just accustomed to it. I think, Bob, you're going to have to remind me the question because I got off track there.
The question is, how many emails do you answer a week?
Oh, the email. So we started this quite some time ago, Bob, and we've talked about it. Somewhere between 20 and 30 per week. And sometimes I'm up in my office after hours trying to respond to questions. And it's just part of that, feeling that I need to help the industry as much as I can. I have a few more years before retirement, and I'm getting to do it with you, Bob, and with Chris Hearn, who I think is one of the most entrepreneurial SBA executives out there. So I'm getting to ride out on something fun. Well, part of that process is helping as many SBA lenders be as good as they can be. at the SBA process. And Bob, become good SBA citizens.
That's right. I love that. Lance, I want you to finish up. Tell me what you do for Chris Hearn and Phoenix.
So I'm executive vice president, chief servicing officer. I'm in charge of servicing. We are an LSP. We can provide LSP services to small SBA lenders, medium-sized SBA lenders that are looking for help in the SBA lending process. Our first and largest client certainly is the bank that's part of our group, Community Bank and Trust. But we are helping some other lenders throughout the country with different aspects of their SBA lending. So I manage the team that services the SBA portfolios for Community Bank and Trust and other SBA participant lenders that we're helping. And the fun part, Bob, people sometimes look at change at SBA and say, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Well, when we had this recent change and DOGE was encouraging SBA people to retire or move on, that just opened up a hiring opportunity for SBA lenders throughout the country. So I was able to add one of the best servicing people in the industry who was working at SBA, who I'd actually hired when I was deputy director at SBA. This is his name is Joel Tittle. This is my third time with Joel Tittle. The other thing, Bob, is I went back to some banks that I helped build their SBA lending department. I've found some great team members there. But, change in SBA is never bad. It's just that you have to look at it and find out a way to take the good from the change.
Lance, I appreciate you stopping by. I appreciate the conversation on addressing the next generation. I agree with you. It's a great career path. It does a tremendous amount of good on a number of different levels. You are living that. You're walking the walk. You're talking the walk. You're doing it. So I appreciate it. Lance Sexton, a friend. Thank you, Lance.
Thank you.